Two stories dominate every conversation about growing up. City kids anxious and overstimulated, suburban kids soft and coddled. But a third group nobody bothers to describe. Kids from a place with one stoplight, one diner, a graduating class small enough to fit in a single photo. Small town kids. And the way that place wired them might be the most quietly complicated psychology in the room. The colleague who never misses a deadline and never mentions it. The friend who drives 4 hours to a funeral for someone they barely knew. The person who's been in the city 12 years and still says the name of their hometown like an address they're waiting to go back to. The condition that made them started early, and it made almost every other trait possible. They grew up without anonymity, not partial anonymity, none. Picture this. You're 11. You're walking the 6 blocks home from school. In that time, 4 adults call you by name. 2 of them ask about your mother by her first name. One mentions you were seen at the gas station on Saturday. You weren't doing anything, that's the point. You were just seen. By dinner, the version of your afternoon has already arrived home before you did. Nearly 46 million Americans live in rural counties. That's not a footnote. That's an entire population learning something before puberty that most people never have to learn at all. You are always being watched, and the watching is not hostile, which somehow makes it heavier. That constant surveillance rewires something specific. The brain builds a permanent background process, a second track running underneath every action, asking how does this look? Psychologists have a name for it, hypervigilant self-monitoring. Most people activate it during a job interview. Small-town kids leave it running all day, every day for 18 years. That is why so many of them exhaust themselves in ordinary rooms. They aren't being social. They are doing calculus about who noticed what. The upside is real. They're extraordinarily attuned to a room. They read tension before it surfaces. They know who's upset before anyone speaks. That skill was not a gift. It was a survival adaptation to being permanently visible. The downside is that you can't turn it off, and it doesn't know a boardroom is not a diner counter. The condition would already be a lot. Then they watched what happened to the ones who tried to leave. There's always one. Moved to the coast with a duffel bag and a going-away party at the church hall. 18 months later, back home, working at the hardware store saying it just didn't work out. Nobody mocks them. The town absorbs them quietly, but it isn't only the failures. There's a name that stops getting mentioned. Someone who actually made it and then stopped visiting. The word for them is forgot where he came from. So the child at the table learns the full shape of the trap. Psychologists call it a double bind. Come home diminished, you're pitiable. Come home successful, you're a traitor. No clean version of leaving exists. Watch how they describe any major decision in their own life. A move, a career change, a choice that took 2 years of courage. They'll shrug it off. They'll call it no big deal. They'll frame the whole thing as something that sort of happened to them, as if they were carried there by circumstance rather than choosing it. A plan can be judged, a drift cannot. The same instinct explains why they refuse to celebrate anything. They get the promotion and tell nobody, they buy the house and mention it 3 months later in passing. It's not modesty, it's not insecurity, it's older than both. It's the memory of what the town called the ones who looked like they thought they were better. So they achieve. And then they apologize for it by staying quiet. And under all of it runs a move older than the others. They tear themselves down before you get the chance. They tell you the presentation is probably a mess. They say they got lucky. They mention their own flaw before you notice it. Psychologists call this self-handicapping, lowering the expectation so the judgment can never fully land. The reflex has a specific origin. It is the memory of everyone else's memory. Your worst moment at 14 still comes up at the diner when you're 30. There is no clean slate, there is no new city where nobody knows. The record is permanent and oral and everywhere. So you build a version of yourself that's already been criticized and hand it over before anyone else can. None of that stopped them from becoming the person you actually want in a crisis. They just do the thing. The fence gets fixed, the sink gets unclogged, the car starts making a noise, and they lie down on the driveway and figure out the noise. It started before adolescence, not as a lesson as a shift. 12 years old and stacking hay in the August heat because the neighbor needed hands and hands were what you had. 14, and running a register at the only grocery store in the county. 16, and mowing lawns in a truck older than you where the money was the insurance payment. And they never talk about any of it. There's no post, no story about their grit. The work gets done, and then it's Tuesday again. Ask about the hardest year of their life, and they'll say it was fine. Ask what they're good at, and they'll genuinely struggle to answer, because naming it feels like bragging, and bragging was the one sin the town never fully forgave. Two truths about them sit at the same table, and shouldn't. They are among the most self-reliant people you will meet. They are also among the most quietly loyal. They will not ask you for a ride. They will change a tire in the rain rather than make a phone call. But if your father dies, they will be in the car within the hour, and they will bring food, and they will not say anything meaningful, and they will stay until the dishes are done. The way they read anyone in charge is not the way you might expect. They don't care about a title. They care about how long you've been doing it. A man who has run the same shop for 30 years has authority. A 28-year-old with a job title and a strategy deck has nothing yet. They learned this by watching the outsiders arrive. The consultant who was going to revitalize downtown. The chain that promised jobs and closed in 2 years. The politician who came once, took the photo, and never returned. The pattern held every time. Someone arrived with a plan, made loud promises, and was quietly gone before the next election. Credentials talked. Nothing changed. So they trust duration, not declaration. The economics of the place did their own work on them. Every 5 or 7 years, another employer became a boarded-up building. The plant closed, the mill closed, the Walmart came in, and then eventually left. Nobody watched a recession on the news. They watched their uncle stop laughing. Big promises arrived from outside jobs investment, a fresh start for the whole county, and then quietly failed. They learned young that everything permanent is temporary, and every rescue is somebody's exit strategy. The therapist numbers give the pattern away. Adults from rural backgrounds seek mental health support at strikingly lower rates than their urban peers. And it isn't only about distance or cost. Asking requires being seen needing something. And being seen needing something is the exact thing they spent their childhood learning to avoid. So they carry it. Quietly, efficiently. And the carrying accretes. It arrives late, and it arrives loud. Give them a broken thing and watch what happens. The sink stops draining, they crawl under it. The car makes a noise, they find the noise. The fence sags after a storm, it's straight by Sunday. Nobody was ever going to come. Not because the family was neglectful, but because the nearest person who could help was 40 minutes away and charged for the drive. So competence was not a virtue, it was infrastructure. They developed a physical intuition. Most professionals lose in graduate school, a belief that if you sit with a broken object long enough and take it apart in the right order, the object will eventually tell you what happened to it. Very few things intimidate them because very few things stay opaque for long. Most of them ended up leaving. Now they raise their own kids in places their childhood self would not recognize. Their kids get the schedule, the visibility, the safety net that nobody handed the parent. And still one quiet worry keeps surfacing. They've raised somebody who will not know what to do when something breaks. Comfort was never the family currency. There's one image that keeps coming to me when I think about them. Every house has a pilot light, a small blue flame at the base of the water heater or the furnace or wherever the warm things live. Nobody sees it. Nobody thanks it. Most people go their entire adult life without checking on it once. But if it goes out, nothing works. The showers go cold, the house goes cold. The whole day rearranges itself around a small blue flame that was doing its job the whole time. Small town kids are pilot lights. They don't ask for the credit, they don't want the credit. They stay lit anyway, because that's what pilot lights do. For the ones who left and still can't fully explain why they flinch when someone praises them, or if you finally understand your quietest coworker, the one who never lets anything fall, subscribe. It means more than you know.